Wominjeka everyone, Wominjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Bharat, which makes us one big family. Annie Bharat is the youngest sister of William Bharat, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Morley Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the Council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria, or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an elder of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families: the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandins. And I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moolalic Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome to the council meeting. I'm Councillor Piers Tyson, Mayor of Moonee Valley City Council. We aim to get started every second Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. However, sometimes there are some delays behind the scenes that we need to work through, and we appreciate your patience. You can have a look at our agenda online for all the issues that we'll be talking about tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. So every second Tuesday we work through our council agenda, and what that means is working through things from procedural, day-to-day issues, financial reports, all the way up to the most important things in Moonee Valley, in Victoria or in Australia. And councillors can put up alternatives to that, can put up our staff officers' recommendation, and we can debate that and vote yes or no at the end of the day. Welcome everyone to the Council meeting for the 24th of October 2023, which I now declare open at 6:40 p.m. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public in the gallery who have joined us tonight, as well as those who are joining us online at home. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that your presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent during the meeting, and a reminder to those in the public in the gallery that under Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recording in the chamber of the meeting is not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their spirits, ancestors, elders and community members, past, present and emerging. And we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies and leave of absence, and I have received an apology from Councillor Nation this evening, and otherwise all other councillors have joined us. Item 3 is the confirmation of minutes. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
I'd like to move that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 10th of October 2023 be confirmed with the following amendment. Item 9.12 Vidas Street, Aberfeldy, in brackets lot 5 on PSO 66257, close brackets, use and development of the land for residential aged care facility and retirement village, section 72 amendment be updated from council resolves to issue a notice of decision to amend a permit in relation to planning permit application number MV/124/2019/B to council resolves to issue a notice of decision to amend a permit in relation to planning permit application number MV/124/2019/C.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bedio was the first I saw. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion? No? Councillor Bedio? No? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 4 is declarations of conflict of interest. Does any councillor have a conflict of interest this evening? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to declare a material conflict of interest for agenda item 9.3 for reasons previously disclosed to the CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Are there any other conflicts? If not, we move on to item 5, presentations. Councillors, do we have any presentations tonight?
Yes, I do, Mayor. I'd like to speak about Tommy Quick, who's a young stroke survivor. Tommy had a stroke at the age of 12. He's now aged 30 and he lives in Murnong Ward. Last Sunday, on the 22nd of October, he returned home from an epic recumbent trike ride to the four most extreme points of mainland Australia: Steep Point in Western Australia, Wilson's Promontory in Victoria, Cape Byron in New South Wales and Cape York in Queensland. He rode 9,923 kilometres on his own along some of the loneliest country roads in Australia. He left Melbourne in July 21, was hit by a car near the Barossa Valley in November 21. Then in November 22, he went back on the road again. And finally, after many adjustments to his routes and his vehicles and his equipment, he took off for the third time on Friday the 24th of March earlier this year. And he managed to get all the way up to Cape York for his 30th birthday in August. His keen sense of humour, spirit and determination are evident on his website, thepoints.org, and on all socials. And on these you'll also find a song written by a friend who rode over 2,000 kilometres with Tommy, which helped to explain the purpose of Tommy's ride. Tommy wants more people to be aware that strokes can happen to anyone, anytime and at any age. He urges and encourages and welcomes donations to the Stroke Foundation to help fund young stroke research, and this can be done via his website. To date, he has raised over $100,000 through his riding. He's very passionate about ableism and inclusion, and he welcomed riders to join him along the way to promote and encourage diversity. He's also recently joined the Moonee Valley Disability Advisory Committee, and I'm sure he'll make an amazing contribution, and well done, Tommy, on your remarkable journey, showing your resilience, courage and determination.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Isa. Are there any other presentations? If not, I have one. So on the 12th of this month, Councillor Narelle Sharp was awarded the Municipal Association of Victoria's 15 Years of Service Award. This award is given to individuals who proudly represent their communities, continuously engage their time to serve the best interests of the people they represent. On behalf of Council, congratulations for an outstanding achievement and for your unwavering commitment to our community. The City of Moonee Valley has benefited from Councillor Sharp's commitment to our community, and this reflects years of your hard work and dedication. It was an honour to join you with Councillor Isa at the MAV a couple of weeks ago. I think it was especially pleasing for me to see all of your colleagues, young and old, congratulate you, and everyone in the room seemed to know you. So congratulations on 15 years, Councillor Sharp. And we'll get a photo after. Finally, if there aren't any other presentations this evening, this is obviously my last council meeting. Chairing the meeting as Mayor, so I'd like to thank my colleagues for your work this year. As we all know around this table, and maybe some in the community often don't know, that everything that we do, everything that we open, that we deliver in the community is a team effort, often has many years of work. To rattle off some of the achievements that we've been working on this year, we're ripping up the Moonee Ponds Creek in Strathmore. We've been working on the flood recovery following my predecessor, Councillor Byrne, as Mayor. We've opened the redeveloped Flemington Library, our Flemington Hub, which is 6 years in the making and includes our predecessor councillors. Funding for Steel Creek. We've also engaged with our community in new and interesting ways in terms of our disability consultation committee that Councillor Isa just mentioned, as well as our community carbon emissions reduction funding, funding committee, which was really a novel approach from ourselves, where we have gone to our community, recruited dozens of individuals, young, old, from varying different backgrounds, everything from age, education, work experience, and got them to tell us where we should be allocating nearly $1 million in terms of helping the climate. And I think that everyone around here should be particularly proud of engaging with our community in a more wholesome way. As well as doing new things, we're also bringing back the old, and I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Sypek's motion to bring back the Moonee Valley Festival, which I know everyone around the chamber is incredibly excited by in the coming months, and I know everyone in the community and a lot of people have stopped me in the street commenting how excited they are to see the Moonee Valley Festival return after a few years. Finally, I'd like to thank our staff, our executive who have joined us in the chamber, the many hundreds of our staff who I've had the pleasure of meeting over the last year. I think just being around the office means that you get to meet so many people who are passionate about our community, about the work they do, from comms, from our parks and gardens, engineering, as well as our early childhood, aged care. The breadth of services that Moonee Valley delivers is extraordinary, and I think I've always disagreed with anyone who has come with the adage of rates, roads and rubbish, because we support our community from cradle to grave, and it's something that I'm particularly proud of. As well, finally, I'd like to thank our CEO, Helen Swee, who has led council through an extraordinary few years, and it's an honour to work with you, and I appreciate your continuing presence even when I'm not in this chair, that you'll be here to guide us and my successor and continue working with us. So thank you. Thank you, councillors. Next on the agenda is petitions and joint letters. Councillors, are there any petitions or joint letters? If not, we move on to public question time, and we've got one this evening from Brian Duggan, who is in the audience. So Brian, I'll ask you to come to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. My question is this: in September 2022, Councillor Nation requested a report on advocacy for removal of level crossings. A brief report was delivered with conflicting data to what LXRP has released through their Freedom of Information request to me. Then on the 27th of April 2023, item 9.3, Moonee Valley City Council meeting requested Council provide a report concerning Puckle and Park Street crossing removals be made by the 10th of October 2023. The 10th of October meeting has come and gone and made no mention of this report. By what date does Council intend to publish this report?
Thank you, Brian. I'll ask our CEO to respond.
Thank you, Brian. Through the Mayor. Thanks, Brian, for your question and ongoing interest in this matter. The Council resolution requested a significant volume of technical information and design work to be completed, which requires extensive support and assistance from external consultants. This work has taken longer than the Council resolution initially envisaged. Whilst Council officers make every endeavour to meet the Council resolved timeframe, it is also officers' obligation to provide complete information necessary for decision making. It is therefore Council officers' intention to present a report that contains a full and comprehensive account of the Council endorsed resolution in the first half of 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Brian, and good to see you again in our gallery. Our next item on the agenda is reports from delegates. Do we have any reports from delegates? Councillor Isa.
Thanks. Now, I'd just like to report briefly as the delegate to the Municipal Association of Victoria on the State Council that was held on Friday the 13th of October. At the State Council, there are various motions put forward by different councils across Victoria, and there was a plethora of interesting debate on topics relevant and then perhaps not so relevant to Moonee Valley. Some of the topics that were issues on which I spoke and moved various amendments and represented our particular views on included a motion on planning advocacy that was in response to the state government's housing statement. The MAV has taken it's taking its role very seriously in providing a coherent and combined advocacy on that housing statement. And I spoke to local Moonee Valley issues, including the impact on public and social housing redevelopment, and as well as the housing intensification in North Essendon and Niddrie. There was also a motion around advocacy for flood planning and mapping, and I made sure that this included, that this was relevant to councils like Moonee Valley, for whom flooding is from rivers, not just coastal flooding. We also put forward a motion that Councillor Hodgson had brought to the Chamber around the work being done by local governments on treaty, and this was passed by the State Council with a 79% approval, which was terrific. There was also a motion from our neighbouring council, Brimbank, about the delivery of Airport Rail Link. There was considerable debate on that motion, with many councils feeling that that was a localised issue and not a statewide issue. I spoke in support of the Brimbank motion, and we managed to get that motion across the line, albeit with a fairly slim margin. So there's perhaps some more advocacy that we can do with our colleagues across different councils to impress upon them the importance of the airport rail link as a statewide level. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Are there any other reports? If not, we move on to item 9.1, Moonee Valley City Council Annual Report 2022/23. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
I move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Isa. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, thanks, Mayor. The annual report 22-23 reports on Council's operational and financial performance over the last financial year. In accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, the annual report comprises 3 sections: a report of operations, the performance statement and the audited financial statements for the 22-23 financial year. It gives an update on Council's performance against the annual initiatives of the Council Plan and Health Plan 21 to 25, results from the Local Government Performance Reporting Framework measurement and the integrated strategic indicators. The annual report also celebrates significant achievements of the year, including major capital works, progression of operational strategies, improvements to methods of community engagement, and the endorsement of key strategic documents. Once finalised, the annual report will be made publicly available on Council's website and in hard copy at Council's Customer Service Centre and libraries for people to have a look at. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Isa?
Just briefly, look, the Council annual report is a really important snapshot of the work that we've been doing, and anyone who is interested in getting a quick picture of where their rates money has been going, looking through the annual report is a really good way of getting that information. I also find that the CEO and mayoral statements at the beginning of annual reports are actually terrific summaries of a whole lot of projects that we've been doing, and I noted that the CEO's comments in the beginning of the annual report this year spoke to the way that our grants have doubled, and that's just so pleasing that, you know, in this tight fiscal environment, the officers are doing so much work to get those grants, to get that success in grants, and it's really appreciated. And also some improvements to employee satisfaction, and really pleasing to note that we've come a long way over the past few years. So that's really good to have that in that annual report. I also note that in the what is it called, the Community Satisfaction Survey, the one thing we are rating so well on nearly all indicators, and we've really made improvements on some of the more difficult indicators, but some that are really stubborn include traffic and parking and planning, and we just still need to try to work out how we can better meet people's expectations around those quite difficult issues, or how we can better align expectations with what we can actually deliver. I think there's perhaps some dual work to go on there. Anyway, as I say, if you're interested in where your rates are going, it's a useful summary. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, just to add to the comments already made, that I think what is outlined in the Mayor and the CEO's message really highlight some of the metrics that I think indicate that we have a really healthy organisation. They indicate a health of the organisation in terms of employee satisfaction, community satisfaction with what we're doing, capital works delivery, which we did incredibly well at this past financial year under difficult global and industry market pressures. So I really do think that this annual report demonstrates that we have a healthy and thriving organisation that is delivering for the people who work for it and for the people it serves. So happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 9.2 is Master Plan Update Report in brackets FJ Davies Reserve and Lebanon Reserve. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion and just change point D to read, request officers to deliver a landscape concept plan for FJ Davies in brackets Centreway Reserve for endorsement by Council by June 2024, and note the works that have been undertaken in the reserve since 2018.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. this report was a bit of a combination of things that have been going on with the master plans. It's taken a lot of work and it's quite an interesting report. I'm going to stick mainly to the point D that I've made some amendments for. A notice of motion that Councillor Sypek and I have been very passionate about, and yourself too for a while, is to really have some sort of a plan for the Centreway going forward. We've been working on it since 2018, and then COVID hit, and whilst we kept picking off various elements that we thought would have improvement towards the Centreway and to turn it away from the so-called dust bowl that it's known as, we really do need some sort of a plan. And then there was talk about whether it would be a precinct plan, a master plan, but I believe where we've landed is thanks to the team, a landscape concept plan. So this will give us an idea of what we want to do in the middle of the Centreway, and hopefully we can have something that the community can look at. This is where we're going. It will also help councillors when sitting around the table at budget time to say, well, this is actually where it needs to go, and just give some sort of an idea, and I suppose community satisfaction in terms of we do have a plan for one of our most important areas within our municipality. The Centreway is such a beautiful place and we need to make sure we've got a plan for it going forward. So that is the change to point D. I'll also note that point A is noting the process for developing the long-term plans for the parks, and we're really excited about this open space strategy. We've been waiting a long time, and so it's very exciting when we get it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I concur with what Councillor Byrne said about Centreway Shopping Centre. It is quite a unique design there by Burley Griffith, where the Central Park is central to all the traders in the area. I totally agree. It just needs a bit of a revamp, and a landscape plan is probably the ideal way of doing this. And this will also coincide with my two notices of motion that I'm bringing up later on tonight about the Mediterranean Festival and bringing the carols also back to the area. So I think it all works hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Eisen.
I have a point of clarification, Mayor, if I can.
Yes, what's your point of clarification?
The work being requested in point D, is that accounted for in the current budget?
Sorry, I'll have to ask you to repeat that.
The work that's being requested of officers in point D, is that currently accounted for in our adopted budget?
I would say no, but I would ask the CEO whether she feels in a position to respond.
No, it's not in the budget. Thank you.
Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, I really appreciate the intent of the amendment to point D. I'm going to foreshadow the officer's recommendation, and I won't support the change to point D because it's not budgeted for. I also note that attachment 2 indicates that we have currently 42, I think it was 42, maybe I've got that number wrong. There's a high number of master plans, concept plans, precinct plans that are of various states of delivery. And there are a range of, I think there are about 10 or so plans that currently need to be reviewed that are, and all of this is being mapped out in the open space strategy, which is coming to us soon with some implementation plans. And I'm I've been really pushing for the open space strategy and for the way in which that can help us to fairly and strategically deliver open space planning across the municipality in a really transparent way that's budgeted for each year, and that keeps us on a kind of a roster across the municipality that that helps people to understand when different areas will receive the attention that all areas deserve. There are a number of parks in every single ward that people are waiting for more planning for and for more attention, and I think that we really need to avoid unexpected and unbudgeted processes and stick to a more predictable and transparent and fairer approach to our open space planning. So as I say, I appreciate the intent of the change, but it's not something I can support at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. And look, I share the concerns of Councillor Isaac, and I'd just like to, I think, but I also I can see that we went out for, I think the original motion speaks about how we went out for consultation on Centreway, and we got some feedback, and there is, sometimes if we wait too long, then we have to go out and reconsult. And so if we can do something with the feedback that we gathered, I think it was in 2020, for a place that has become a bit of a feature in our events planning in a few decisions in Chamber recently, I can see the merit of that. But the thing that concerns me is about a little bit the ad hoc way that we're pulling particular plans out of the overarching strategies that we're designing. So taking them, the open space strategy, which is hopefully coming to us before the end of the year, I think the report mentions. So if I could, I'll just move an amendment.
What's your amendment?
To point D, to strike out for endorsement by Council by June 2024 and replace with for inclusion in the implementation plan in A.
For inclusion in the implementation plan in A.
Point A, yeah.
Point A. Just give governance a sec to reflect that. Are councillors aware of what's been moved as part of the amendment? Yes, general nod. Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thanks, Mayor, and apologies to colleagues for doing this without notice. But I do. It just sits better with me for this process to be included in the municipal-wide strategy that we're developing, and the priority projects that officers will recommend to us as a part of that. And as councillors, we definitely have a role in helping to reflect community sentiment and the priorities of the community, and in identifying and proposing what the priorities should be. So, that doesn't worry me. I just would like to see that we're moving forward with planning for our open spaces when we have an overarching strategy that has the foundational elements, and also, as Councillor Isaac has mentioned, sets out a bit of a transparent plan of the order in which we'll do things and the manner in which we'll do things. So hopefully councillors will be able to see that intention and support this amendment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the amendment? No. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Isaac.
Can I ask the move of the amendment point of clarification. Is the intention of the amendment that the landscape concept plan would be delivered, or that the delivery of it is included in the plan? Does that make sense?
The intention is the latter. Yeah. So that delivery of the landscape concept plan would be included in an implementation plan.
Would you like to speak to the amendment?
On the understanding that that's the interpretation of the that's the intent of the amendment, and that's the way it would be interpreted, that sounds like it solves my concern, which so that it captures that a landscape concept plan will be delivered to wrap up the work that's been done and finalise that consultation, but that it's not delivered in this current budget because there's no money for it. That's my understanding. So I guess if I've misunderstood, and then perhaps that could be further clarified. But on that understanding, it sounds like it solves my problem.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks. Look, I won't be supporting it. I think that this report has come back off the back of a notice of motion because of how long we've had to wait. Unfortunately, we have to wait a lot, and I feel like this went out for consultation back in 2018. I think you mentioned 2020, but due to reasons, and it wasn't just COVID, and I don't want to, be pointing fingers anywhere, but unfortunately it did get pushed to the back a long time ago, and it deservingly needs to be done. I did discuss what would be implementable time. If it was up to me, I would have said have the report back in a couple of months. I thought that a fairer option would be the time that I had it in there, which was June 2024. So I'm going to stick to my guns and say no. I think that this is such an important piece that so many people have worked hard to get to a point. It's sort of already there. It's like within reaching distance. If there's significant delays with open space strategies or whatnot, I don't want to see it just continually be put back. So I won't be supporting the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor, and through you. Look, I agree with Councillor Byrne with respect to this amendment. Given that we had gone out to consultation in 2018, I think we're at risk if we leave it any longer that consultation is going to be redundant. Now, obviously there's a cost implication to consultations, and if we put this, even if it's identified as a priority in the open space strategy, there's inevitably going to be a delay by the time the strategy goes out for consultation, then by the time that comes back to council for endorsement, then by the time we then trigger those implementation priorities, there's going to be a delay, and by the time that comes out for further work, I'm concerned that the consultation we would have done in 2018 would be completely redundant if we've left it far too long. And so there's going to be a cost implication going back out to consultation. So seeing as that process has already begun, I think I think it would be of council's interest to continue with that and to deliver the plan as quickly as possible. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Hodgson, would you like a right of reply?
Thanks, Mayor. And look, thank you for the correction. Yes, it was 2018 that it went out to community engagement, so apologies for that error. But look, noting that, I think that since 2018 we have had a major global event that has changed the way that we consider our open space. And so for me, whilst there is that issue of going and reconsulting, I do think that making sure that how we consider and deliver upgrades and improvements to Centreway, it really should come into the fold of what we do with our open space across the municipality. So, this amendment is a way for me to continue, to support overall the motion, because I think whilst I understand the frustration of the delays, I also get frustrated by impatience and sometimes having, things pulled out as ad hoc standalone outside of the overarching strategies that we try to deliver. And there are a number of overarching strategies that we've endorsed as a council in the last 3 years. And there are a number of, little projects that councillors have waited to be able to deliver for that strategy to exist. We've got one a bit later on the agenda tonight. But, I really do think that those strategies are important and that we need to stick to delivering things when we have those strategies in place and not pulling out ad hoc projects. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I'll put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Hodgson, Isa. All those against? Councillor Bedio, Byrne, Sharp, Sypek, Tyson. I declare that amendment lost. We now return to the substantive motion. Having been moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Sypek, Councillors Hodgson and Isa have spoken. Councillor Hodgson, I believe, were you moving an amendment halfway through your speaking time? Would you like to continue speaking?
Thank you, Mayor.
If you had 1:56 left on the clock.
Yeah, look, just briefly to say that for the reasons outlined in speaking to the amendment, I'm not sure that I can support this in its substantive form. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? No. Look, as there has been some dissent around the chamber, Councillor Byrne, I'd ask whether you would like to close.
Thanks, Mayor. Just briefly, just in regards to the $30,000 that it will cost, we have ups and downs in our budget all the time. $30,000 on a $200 million plus budget is very much within how much things go up and down. It's not going to, I don't believe, will be considerably noticeable. We get reports all the time, quarterly reports to adjust things, and this will just come into a report, and I'm sure that it can be absorbed. We quite often will change motions to have little changes. That's how we sort of go about things. We can't always know what's going on at budget time for the cost of everything. So I hope that this gets up, and I'm looking forward to seeing a concept plan by the middle of next year if it does. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne.
Mayor,
Councillor
do you mind
Isa?
splitting the vote? Could I ask?
A request to split the vote.
A, B, C, and then D.
I've considered your request, Councillor Isa. I will group, as they aren't dependent, I will group A, B and C together, and then we will vote separately on D. So I will first put A, B and C.
Mayor, can I ask a point of clarification now? So then can we foreshadow any motion at all to do with point D? Because otherwise it could be, there is a foreshadow motion on the floor currently, but if D gets lost, we lose D completely.
That's correct.
So can we foreshadow just for D?
No.
So we're willing to lose the officer's recommendation for D. Is there a D?
Mayor,
That's
I believe
correct.
points of
That's
clarification
correct.
can be
Councillor
made.
Byrne. I will put that to the vote in A, B and C first. All those in favour of A, B and C. That is unanimous. And I will put D to the vote. All those in favour. That is Councillor Bedio, Byrne, Sharp, Sypek, Tyson. All those against. Councillor Adams, Hodgson, Isa. I declare that also carried. And the entire report carried. We now move on to item 9.3, endorsement of festivals and event framework and events on council-managed land policy for public consultation. And Councillor Bedio has declared a conflict of interest, so I'll ask him to leave the room. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion? You aren't required to speak to the motion.
Well, I'll just say this is going out for consultation, and I look forward to making any necessary changes that may come back. We've had a trial period of a similar policy. There's some small changes that have been made, that we'll hear back from the community as to whether there are any further changes, and then we can amend it as needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just add that the trial that policy that has been in place was for commercial events only, and the draft policy that we're putting out for consultation in this motion includes all community-run events and council-partnered events. So it spans the scope a little bit, and I think usefully describes the different types of events that might be held on council land, distinguishing between them, and having adequately simple processes for smaller or lower impact and community run events, and acknowledging the complexity and the time required for some of those larger and higher impact events. So hopefully we get a decent amount of feedback from the different people who might be different people groups, organisations who are keen to run events in our municipality that align with our festival and event framework and objectives under the Igniting Creativity policy, strategy, I think it is. Just looking forward to what comes back and getting more events run in Moonee Valley. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously, and we will welcome Councillor Bedio back to the room. Welcome back, Councillor Bedio. We now move on to item 9.4, grant funding opportunity to transition council's fleet to zero emissions. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation with an additional point C that reads, request the CEO to investigate the feasibility costs and processes associated with making electric vehicle charging infrastructure referred to in A available for community use to inform future budget decisions.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Bedio. Councillor Isa, would you like to speak to the motion?
So thanks to the officers for putting this motion to us to progress the funding application to work with other councils on some funding that can help us to buy some big electric trucks, and then also to look at how we might be able to start to transition our 70 vehicles that need to be fleet vehicles that need to be replaced over the next year or so to electric vehicles. And what we're looking at here is some funding to help with some infrastructure for the charging of those vehicles, infrastructure at the depot and at the Civic Centre. And the additional point that I've added is just to see what we might be able to do to make that infrastructure available for community use. Particularly, I'm interested in how we might be able to do that at the Civic Centre. If it can work at the depot as well, that's terrific. But every opportunity we can take to include more EV infrastructure around the municipality, I think worth us jumping onto. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Bedio.
Not much further to add, Mayor. I'm supportive of the application. I think it's going to be if we're successful, it would be a fantastic opportunity for Moonee Valley and for our partner councils, but I also support Councillor Isa's amendment. I think that's a great idea. We are going to run into a challenge in the near future as the uptake of EV takes off, which it inevitably will. We're going to have a lack of infrastructure unless we really work towards building up that infrastructure. So I think this would be a good idea if it could be a dual use. It could serve the public and it could also serve council's needs. So happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.5 is response to notice of motion at number 2023/09, Valley Lake Trees. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council resolves to A, note the report and the operational actions arising from the investigation, and B, endorse a 5-year tree removal program in consultation with affected residents, in brackets capped at 7 trees per year, close brackets, for those properties with nature strip trees deemed to be assessed as being in poor or very poor condition, as detailed within the report and attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, this has been incredibly hard and incredibly stressful for a lot of people. I've touched on this previously in the chamber, but there are some trees which unfortunately in Valley Lake are causing considerable angst, and in Rosehill Ward and probably all over the municipality, there are often questions in regards to trees and people wanting particular trees taken down, and almost always I've got a bit of a spiel and I say no. And this is not something that I take lightly at all. In fact, it's something that I really was very unsure about, but these trees are causing so much hate within the community. People are just turning against trees altogether, and so we need to find something that we can go, look, if there's these really particular problematic ones, and I have through talking to colleagues limited this at such a small amount. We're looking at over 5 years and only 7 trees per year. And only these trees that are very poor and poor, as rated by the arborists, we can start removing them. In the report it does talk about when they die off, they go. The problem is the residents know that they're infected, and as I said, they're just causing so much angst. So this just gives, I suppose, a little bit of flexibility to be able to take out some trees per year, the particularly bad ones. I do note what the report says, but I really want the community to love trees. These, as I said, it's sort of doing this really weird snowball effect where they're starting to take it out on lots and lots of trees, not just infected trees. So this is a beautiful area and we want to make sure that we maintain canopy, but I don't want people to have these trees, particularly in granite, that are just so problematic and having people just turn against nature. So I feel like this is some sort of a compromise, and what might end up happening as well is that if we do find that any of these diseases are self-limiting and they do stop, it might be that it doesn't end up being 35 trees overall. I think that would be a great outcome. So it's capped at 7, so it might not be that. It might be that the trees currently, there's I think it was 39 that are poor or very poor. It might be that they get scaled up and they're not poor or very poor anymore and therefore they won't get done. So these are only bad trees, if I can leave it at that. So as I said, definitely not taken lightly, but hopefully this gives some relief for residents without completely destroying the streetscape. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I once again concur with Councillor Byrne. I put up a notice of motion for planting more trees around sporting fields and around our open spaces. But, you know, it's like everything, you know, if the trees are diseased, do you want it to spread to the rest of the community, to the rest of the area? You know, that's what arborist's job, that's what his job is. They actually look at these things in a really objective manner, and if the tree is diseased, if the tree just needs to be removed, well, I'd rather see that tree removed and replanted with something more healthier to make the area blossom and to increase the canopy, so that way in future generations we'll see these lovely trees, rather than just having, you know, diseased trees looking sort of half ragged and sort of, you know, all over the place. So look, look, there is a point where you have to make some sacrifices, and this is one of them. My personal favourite is the Melaleuca. I'd love to get rid of all the Melaleucas, but that's just my personal opinion. But look, I totally agree with this. We're not sort of bringing down a forest here. We're just bringing down a couple of trees. So I tend to agree with the arborist support.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Thanks. Look, I'm not in favour of going against the arborist's advice. The arborists have given us their expert advice on the particular infestations and diseases that the trees are suffering from, and have said that the trees will regenerate without our intervention, and that's the best way of helping those trees. There's a note about the trees that are listed as poor and very poor, which is that they currently don't meet the criteria for removal. And we have very well-tested and implemented criteria for removal, and it has to be robust against the and resilient against the high number of requests that we get from residents to remove trees because they don't like the particular species or whatever it may be. We have to take a reasonably consistent and tree-centred response to those requests, and I think that we have to hold the line in this case. And the arborists have said that when any of these trees are inspected and need to be removed, they will be removed. But at this point, they currently, the best way we can assist these particular trees is to just monitor them over time. The report details the high cost involved in removing trees. Now, I think that the costs that are listed are for considerably more trees than point B refers to. So I'm not quite sure what the cost of point B would be, but I just note that the report indicates that it's $650,000 for if we were to remove all of these particular trees in Granite Way. As I say, I think it's a much higher volume than is anticipated in B, but it just shows the high cost, and that cost is the removal cost, the replacement cost, and then there's also the amenity value, and the impact that any tree removal has is on our capacity to meet our very ambitious targets of 20% canopy coverage by, I think it's 2025 and 30 by 2040. So I might have those dates not quite right, but they're ambitious targets that we need to be very cognizant of. So I appreciate the concern, and the arborists have given us a good, very detailed assessment of the trees. I'm not in support of point B, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? As there has been some dissent, Councillor Byrne, would you like a right of reply?
Look, I will, and I have to do some back of the envelope calculations here, but from what I can gather, if it was 600 and so there was 530 trees that were going to cost that amount. So yeah, we're not talking anywhere near that sort of number. So if we're looking at for all those trees, anyway, it's going to be nothing like that. We're talking about a few $1,000s, which is, again, very minimal. And we're not talking about incredibly old trees, but we're talking about trees that are causing a lot of angst. And as I said, I've not taken this lightly. This has been a really difficult one that I've spoken to many people about, and I don't want people to hate where they live, and that's what's happening. And I think that that's really sad, and it's not just a one-off, and it's not just a few, and it's not just a patch. It's just so much angst, and you can I'll be using this report and the details in the report for further education. I think that that's really important. We need to be educating people about the trees, but we also need that, I suppose, like a little get out of jail card get out of jail free card for the things that are really problematic. People know when they've got a diseased tree at the front that's gone from an okay quality to a poor quality to a very poor quality. They know it's about to die. Can they just, basically they just want to get rid of it at that poor or very poor if it's going downhill, to be like the dead one. And so that they can get a tree that they love, because a lot of people do love their nature trees. So they can come out, plant a new one, and then get back to loving their trees like a lot of people do. So,
Councillor Byrne, your time has expired.
Sorry, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Bedio, Councillor Byrne, Hodgson, Sharp, Sypek, Tyson. All those against? Councillor Adams, Councillor Isa. I declare that carried. We now move on to item 9.6, award of contract number 203311 for 177A Mount Alexander Road, Flemington, auguring removal of contaminated soil and site rehabilitation works. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Bedio.
I'll move the officer's recommendation, Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Isa. Councillor Bedio.
I'll be brief, Mayor. This report is for the award of a contract for the removal of contaminated soil for the the triangular block at 177A Mount Alexander Road, and that was purchased back in 2019 for the purposes of creating a new pocket park. The site was an existing petrol station, and just due to the nature of it being a petrol station, there's soil contamination, and in order to make it suitable for open space, we need to fortunately, it's costly, but we need to do the auguring and removal of the contaminated soil to make sure that it's safe for the public to use as a pocket park. I'm really excited about this space. I think it would be a brilliant addition to Murnong, so it's something that we need to do. So I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I've been getting lots of queries about the progress on this park, so I know that this motion will hopefully, if it's passed, will please a lot of locals in Flemington who've been very dismayed at the time taken to clean up the petrol station site. It was wonderful that council bought that, and it was prior to this council's term, but I think we've also learnt that buying a former petrol station comes with its risks and its liabilities, and it's taken quite a bit of money and a long, long time to remove 12 underground petrol tanks and then to test all the groundwater, and then to now this contract, this second stage contract to remediate the soil before we can even begin the actual implementation of the plan for the space. So, look, I really understand people's impatience with this, and it's a bit of an eyesore. It's very much an eyesore. I understand that there'll be some information going up shortly on site to let people know about the timeline and where things are at, and hopefully that will help people to know that we are not just abandoning this this site. We're trying to get it finished, and if all goes to plan, it should be finished by the middle of next year, which will be terrific. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.7 is the award of contract number 203227 for the Drainage Maintenance and Repair Services 2023 to 28. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Adams got there first. Councillor Hodgson.
Just very briefly, that this is another award of contract. This is for a panel of suppliers to undertake our drainage maintenance and repair services. So whilst we don't like to be reductive about the role of council, roads and drainage and things like that are a very important thing that we maintain around the municipality, and it is, footpath repair and keeping everyone safe and dry. So a very important contract. It's a pretty big one, and all of the details are there to go through. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams. Nothing to add. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 9.8 is the electoral structure review. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council resolves to submit to the Moonee Valley City Council electoral structure review. A, Council supports maintaining 9 councillors as per the status quo. B, Council provides the following feedback in relation to both proposed models. Point 1, that Moonee Valley's 13 neighbourhoods as defined in MV 2040 should be reflected as much as practicable. Council acknowledges this approach may not be entirely practicable given the misalignment between number of neighbourhoods and wards. And 2, that ward names should reflect the diversity of Moonee Valley's population as much as possible. C, Council provides the following feedback in relation to Model 1. Point 1, reconsider the ward names Roberts Ward, Essendon Fields Ward, Queens Lake Ward, Canning Ward and Fairbairn Ward. Point 2, potentially include the names Puckle Ward, Moonee Ponds Ward or Doodagala Ward. Point 3, Fairbairn and Murnong Ward boundaries should more accurately reflect Model 2 boundaries. Point 4, deviations in Canning Ward should be increased due to expected population stabilisation. And point D, Council provides the following feedback in relation to Model 2. 1, reconsider the ward names Napier Ward, Queens Lake Ward and Walter Ward. 2, potentially include the names Woodlands Ward, Moonee Ponds Ward or Doodagala Ward. 3, deviations in Aberfeldy Park Ward should be decreased due to expected population growth. 4, deviations in Napier Ward should be decreased due to expected population growth. 5, deviations in Queens Lake Ward should be decreased due to expected population growth. 6, deviations in Miliara Ward should be increased due to expected population stabilisation. And 7, reflecting the Victorian Government's Housing Statement 2023 overlays at Keilor Road / Matthews Avenue and Keilor Road / Buller Road / Mount Alexander Road intersections should be factored into ward deviations to accommodate increased population density.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Choked on the last 3 words. Is there a seconder? Councillor Heiser. Councillor Hodgson, please have a sip of water and then speak to your motion.
Thank you, Mayor. It doesn't help that the plane trees are out in force at the moment, so there's also that going on. This is a very significant submission, I suppose, for Moonee Valley City Council, and it's one that, I imagine that as councillors we will all have individual views, and as members of the community and residents and ratepayers of Moonee Valley City Council, you may also have views. So I really encourage you to head along and read the report put out by the ERAP, and sorry I don't have the acronym in front of me, but here we go, Electoral Representation Advisory Panel, because they are very keen to hear feedback on the 2 models proposed for our single member wards that we will be moving to at our next election in October next year. So the points that I've read out, I hope colleagues around the table feel that they can support, because I think that if we put in a position as a council, it would be, really valued. Well, any submissions are obviously really valued by the ERAP. A position along the lines of, naming wards and some of our particularly significant population growth projections, so that we don't have to redraw boundaries again in 5 years' time, will be valuable to the panel that's going to decide or make a recommendation to the Minister on the single member ward boundaries. I expect that councillors will also have additional views on the proposals that they might want to make submissions to, and as I said, feel free to reach out to any of us if you want to chat through and consider a submission yourself, because the report, unlike some of the other reports for other municipal local government areas, this one does really seem to be welcoming and inviting submissions. So we do have an opportunity to influence what to locals makes sense for single member ward boundaries, and I encourage everyone to get along to the website and have a look at that proposal and consider putting in your views as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, just to echo Councillor Hodgson's words, please, if you're interested in this topic, the VSC want to hear from you. I noticed that when I put a post up on social media last week, most of the comments were comments around the move from the multi-member wards that we're in at the moment to single-member wards, and that's not up for debate here. What's being considered here is where the boundaries of single-member wards should be. So I guess I'd encourage people not to focus on whether or not you believe single-member wards are going to work well. That's not what the VEC are asking us to reflect on. It's the single-member wards are happening in Moonee Valley. It means that at the next election, people will just be voting for one councillor, not three for their particular area. And so what we're trying to provide some feedback on is how residents really want to be grouped in those electoral segmentations of our municipality to then have one voice representing you. And that's quite a difficult democratic challenge and electoral representative challenge is to work out, well, what communities work well together to then elect a representative voice. And the VEC looks at where there are communities of interest or where there are boundaries that naturally keep a particular group of residents together that would make sense for them to be represented by one voice around this table. When you can hear the sorts of debates that go on, they sometimes can be quite localised to areas, and so that's why a local member and the boundaries of that local neighbourhood are quite important. It's unlikely, I guess, that the nine of us will ever agree necessarily on where those boundaries should absolutely be, so we're putting forward here a more general approach, and we're able to, like anyone in the community, make an individual submission that then can detail what we the carve-up that we think might work best. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Byrne?
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to move an amendment just to strike out B1, please, and then have what B2 would then have to flow into.
Do you mean strike out the entirety of B1 and subsequent renumbering?
Well, then 2,
Change
it
2 to
wouldn't
1.
need to be 2 because there's no 3, I don't think.
Yeah. Is there a seconder for Councillor Byrne's amendment? Councillor Sypek? Councillor Byrne, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thanks, Mayor. I will. Look, I've had a closer look at this. We have 13 neighbourhoods and we're going to have 9 councillors, and I very much acknowledge that there is a line that says council acknowledges this approach may not be entirely practicable given the misalignment between a number of neighbourhoods and wards. One problem that we have always had up in Rosehill Ward is Miliara Ward. We've got Miliara neighbourhood. We have Keilor East neighbourhood and we have Avondale Heights neighbourhood, but then we have a Miliara neighbourhood which actually straddles over Avondale Heights and Keilor East, and none of the proposed the 2 examples that I've used sort of really reflect that with the Miliara, and I understand that it is particularly tricky, but I would actually prefer that, I suppose, people put in their individual submissions. I'm incredibly mindful of what something like this could lead to in terms of unintended consequences for the single member wards, particularly with that Miliara. It could, for instance, result that the whole of the Miliara basically goes down with Avondale Heights, which might lead to half of East Keilor then going in with Airport West. I suppose I don't really know, and because we don't really know of the unintended consequences, I'm not sure really of the particular value necessarily that would have. I think that a lot of what is trying to be encompassed in that particular point is already reflected in the draft neighbourhoods anyway, to an extent, or it's covered in future points down. It's not something that I'm going to go home and be devastated about if I lose tonight, but I do just think that the risks outweigh the benefits for me for that particular point. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Isaac.
Look, the VSC is mainly guided by trying to get 9 wards that are of similar population size, because the whole premise is that each vote across the municipality has the same value. So that's kind of the key thing that the VEC is trying to do. And obviously all of our suburbs and our neighbourhoods vary immensely in terms of their population size. So the VEC can't manipulate things into, so it can't take the suburbs or the neighbourhoods alone, because it's the population numbers that mean more. Our MV 2040 and our planning scheme, though, are predicated on these 13 neighbourhoods, and we've got an opportunity here to try to make that make a little bit more sense with our wards. It's neither here nor there whether or not our submission to the VEC actually points that out or not, but I think given that most of our strategic planning and our planning scheme are the framework of those is these neighbourhood precincts, and that guides most of our thinking, that it's probably a bit of an oversight if we don't draw that to the attention of the VEC, at least for their knowledge. They may or may not be aware of that, and I think it's a useful piece of information for them to have. Whether or not it influences anything or changes anything, it probably wouldn't, but I think it's an important part of our municipal framework.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I think with the neighbourhoods, obviously, that's reflective of the suburbs as well, and I think that's also already sort of been taken into consideration, I guess, as part of each of the models. So I'm not sure taking this out is going to really impact it. I'm neither here nor there with it either, but I think that if we can keep neighbourhoods sort of together in a ward, I guess it makes a bit more sense, but also understanding that there are other sort of natural boundaries that occur as well. So I'm actually not sure whether to support this or not, but I feel like it's neither here nor there anyway. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you. On these, we've got 13 neighbourhoods, and I understand that we refer to MV 2040 a lot, but whether, like, the neighbourhoods in that plan actually don't, well, obviously there's more than what we need, because we're only going to be endorsing, well, the plan is to continue to have 9 councillors. So for me, it's all about keeping it simple. I don't know that mentioning the neighbourhoods from MV 2040 is worthwhile, to be honest, because I think it could potentially convolute things. And just make it more confusing. I think at the end of the day, for me, a suburb needs to stay intact because you have certain demographics in every suburb, and we've got incredibly different demographics from the top of Strathmore Heights down to the bottom of Flemington, and generally speaking, they're reflected in the suburbs that are encompassed within Moonee Valley. So Keeping it simple is my motto, and the fact that, like, yeah, as Councillor Byrne mentioned, there's Miliara in MV 2040, but there's no Miliara suburb, and it sort of takes half of Avondale Heights and half of East Keilor. Now, they're completely two different demographics to a degree themselves. So, yeah, no, I probably prefer not to even mention MV 2040 because, as I said, just keep it simple. And suburbs, for me, shouldn't be split up. They just, yeah, I don't see the point in it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? If not, I'll ask the mover whether she would like a right of reply.
Thanks. And I agreed with lots of things that were said around the chamber, but just to float another example, if we were to put this together, I touched before on the Avondale Heights, Miliara, Keilor East conundrum, but there's also the Keilor Road, Essendon North, which is one neighbourhood, and the Nidri Essendon West, which is another neighbourhood. Now, at the moment, they've used more the suburbs, but if we go to neighbourhoods, there is a very realistic chance that they could say, oh, that's interesting, let's put Airport West with the Keilor Road, Essendon North section. Now, that goes all the way from Airport West, and then it'll basically travel go down the tram line almost to sort of Windy Hill, and I don't think that's necessarily what us as a council would have envisaged would have been a ward. We've always sort of, run it, either across, I think with Airport Ward or something, or down with Nidri Ward. We could end up with very changed boundaries and then saying, well, council asked for it. I think Councillor Adams used the terms neither here nor there, and my suggestion would be if we're neither here nor there, then let's leave it out. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. I'll put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Bedio, Byrne, Sharp, Sypek, Tyson. All those against? Councillors Hodgson, Isa. I declare that amendment carried to delete B and renumber, and we return to the substantive motion moved by Councillor Hodgson, seconded by Councillor Isa, and Councillor Byrne had the call with, I believe, 2:50 on the clock. I believe you had, as you did start speaking. I believe you did. I can confer with governance. Sorry, Councillor Byrne, you did start speaking and then move an amendment, so either you can speak or forfeit your time.
That's all right. Looking forward to watching the live action replay on that one, but that's okay. I thought I obviously used my 10 seconds and I said a couple of words. But look, happy to speak. I think this is, you can be a glass half full or a glass half empty person. We've got to be a glass half full. We're going ahead with these, whether we like it or not. So let's get excited about the idea of, instead of sharing 30,000 amongst 3 councillors, having 10,000 approximately for individual. If we look at pros of that, it will be a smaller area, more localised issues. You'll potentially have a lot more, but more specific. It can be daunting, change can be daunting, but I think that it gives, if we try to be optimistic about it, I feel like that's a nice approach. I don't know. I'm probably just as intrigued as everyone with how they will be carved up. I don't necessarily know whether there's a right or wrong answer. I'm not entirely sure about all of these changes, to be honest. I would have been more of the preference just to allow people to put in individual submissions. I think that unless council is so sure on things, then we probably shouldn't necessarily have come up with these things. So, for instance, and I use this as an example with a few colleagues before, normally when we do a street renaming, we have time to really look into the names and look into the background of every single one of the names. We take street renaming so seriously, and yet we're looking at wards and I get that this is a lot vaguer than that. But I probably would, if we're not entirely sure we're happy with the names. I suppose Puckle Ward, Moonee Ponds Ward and Doodagala Ward aren't particularly problematic, but there's some that we've left in that we might be, I don't know. I do believe that the deviations in Canning Ward and Miliara Ward are wrong. So I'm glad that, you know, we're pointing out that they need to be bigger. I was surprised with the carve up. I do think we're going to have so much more growth. Everything is telling us how much more growth we're having down in the southern end of the municipality, and it hasn't really been catered for to its entirety, I don't think. But anyway, it's interesting times, and you know, we're going to put in a say by the looks of things, and I hope lots and lots of other people do as well, because yeah, it's their city, everyone's city. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak? As there's been some dissent, I'll ask
Mayor, can I just
Hodgson.
foreshadow a motion in case it gets lost?
Sure. Councillor Hodgson, would you like a right of reply?
Just really briefly, look, and I voted against the amendment, but I think if this is going to be a submission from Moonee Valley City Council, you know, I'm happy to have it be something that everyone's comfortable with. So, still support my substantive motion. I think the intention there was there are a couple of little sort of funny dog legs and things in some of the models that. In the two models, that have been put forward, and I'm sure that we can capture any particular minor deviations that we think, you know, more sensibly align to either neighbourhood boundaries or main roads or whatever the case may be in our submissions. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Adams, Bedio, Hodgson, Isa, Sharp, Tyson. All those against? Byrne, Sypek. I declare that carried. We now move on to item 9.9, submission in response to improving residential standards for small lots discussion paper. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Isa. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. The Department of Transport and Planning has released a discussion paper and is seeking feedback. I think there was some discussion in our last meeting about wanting to have opportunity to make comment when the Victorian government decides to change things. So this is one of those opportunities where we've been approached to provide some input into a potential planning scheme amendment that will impact residential developments on small lots being classified as less than 300 square metres. So there's a few of the planning scheme clauses which are difficult to achieve on small lots, or a little bit more difficult to achieve, and I think they're around setbacks, minimum street setbacks, and percentage of site coverage that stakeholders have had some difficulty with interpretation. So this is our opportunity, and the officers have quickly put together a submission for our consideration, and I think it adequately addresses, you know, the issue and makes some helpful suggestions, and happy to endorse that tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa.
Look, just to thank the officers for the quick turnaround on here, and also to thank them for making some, I thought, some really good suggestions, particularly around the change to permeability. Our officers are suggesting that rather than just strike out and it's difficult to necessarily always have permeable areas on the small lots, but our officers have said rather than just strike that out, to actually make sure the design response has incorporated an appropriate water-sensitive urban design treatment that incorporates either stormwater reuse or mitigates the detrimental effect of development or on downstream waterways and risk of flooding, particularly for lots less than 300 square metres. So I think that's a really useful piece of feedback. The other feedback that the officers' submissions made is just around site coverage, not lowering the site, is it lowering or... there are some suggestions there around site coverage to just reduce the changes slightly, and some suggestions around the setbacks that just nuance things a little bit. So thanks, officers, for putting forward that detail from Moonee Valley. And the map in the report's really interesting. I guess it goes to kind of some of the discussions that we have in the chamber around the differences across the municipality. And the map on page 68 really shows that diversity of housing stock that we have, where we've got some suburbs with 200 to 300 properties of less than 300 square metres, and then we've got Flemington and Moonee Ponds, where you've got more than 1,000 above that. So, you know, no wonder we have so many differences around planning or, I guess, some of those strategic discussions, because our municipality is very diverse, and the high number of small lots are in Murnong Ward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Adams, Bedio, Hodgson, Isa, Sharp, Tyson. And those against? Councillors Byrne and Sypek. I declare that carried. Before we move on to item 10, notices of motion, I will call a quick 5-minute break. So we'll return at 8:11. And welcome back to the council meeting. We are now on item 10, notices of motion, and we have 2 listed on tonight's agenda. I'll call on Councillor Sypek with 10.1 to present his first notice of motion, titled Notice of Motion number 2023/35, Carols at Centreway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Take note that at the meeting of council, it is my intention to move that council resolve to request officers to engage with the Centreway Traders Association and also the traders with the intent to assist in identifying the appropriate process, permits, relevant support to host a community carols event involving local, and it actually says here Melbourne, it should be Moonee Valley, Mr Mayor, musicians.
Involving local
Moonee Valley musicians rather than Melbourne.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Once again, I think this is a groundswell from the community. Firstly, it started with me bringing back the Moonee Valley Festival, and now it's progressed to carols being brought back to Centreway, and it was a feature. It was an event that happened, nearly every year for a very, very long time. And like you said, just the last couple of years, it all stopped for some reason. But I'm more than happy to support for carols to be brought back to the Centreway area. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sypek, for bringing this up. This is really exciting. The Centreway didn't have a traders association that long ago, and they really are finding their feet, and they're finding their feet very quickly, which is really exciting. And they're at that stage where they just want to do everything, and it's fantastic. And we, as a council, we just need to help them. So just to make sure, especially when it's the first time doing these things for a long time as a traders association, just to make sure it really does go through the proper process and that they have the permits and they've got that support. At the end of the day, they want to be using the brand new fantastic sound shell that's there, and we do too. Like, if the Traders Association really want to activate the space, like, that's a massive win for everyone in the community. So I hope that whilst we're going to help them do community carols events, it doesn't only stop there, because they will be able to use the experience that they get out of this by for future events. How good would it be to have the Centreway activated every Friday, Saturday night, Wednesday night, whatever? Don't mind. It'll be exciting. So this is, I would like to think that the officers would be engaging with them anyway. I know that our EcoDev team do an amazing job to get around to all of the different traders groups, but just because they're in their infancy, this will be really exciting. So hopefully they can get something up come Christmas time. Thanks.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Bedio.
Look, not much to add other than thanking Councillor Sypek. He's really delivering the goods with these notices of motion in terms of arts and culture. So thanks for bringing these to council. I think this is a really exciting one, and I'm cognizant that in Murnong we're very lucky that we have quite a large number of events on our council calendar, but obviously in the Rosehill side there's not as many. So I'm really supportive of trying to deliver and helping the trading groups deliver some of these events for that side of the community, and the Centreway is a perfect space to do it, which is why I'm also excited in terms of getting that Centreway up and running and delivering a master plan for that as previously discussed. So thanks Councillor Sypek, happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. I'll now call on Councillor Sypek to present his second and final notice of motion, titled Notice of Motion number 2023/36, Centreway Mediterranean Fiesta.
Once again, it's my intention to move that council notes the return of the wonderful Mediterranean Festival to the Centreway Keilor East as a part of the 23-24 summer event season program, and resolved by council in April 2023. And note, the program will reflect the positive cultural influences of migrants from the Mediterranean and emerging communities of the area through dance, song, food and activities.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Is there a seconder? Councillor Byrne. Councillor Sypek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been an absolute favourite in the Rosehill ward, and prior to that, the Phelan ward and the Hicks ward, when they used to be known as. The Mediterranean Festival had a real special bond with East Keilor and Centreway, because they had competitions there. You know, the best pesto produced by locals. You know, the biggest tomato, the biggest cucumber grown in the area. It was fun. You know, people really enjoyed this. We also had local artists from the Vocal Arts Studios, young emerging singers in the Moonee Valley area would come there, and they would sing and dance and do performances all day. So I'm really looking forward to this. This one here, the Mediterranean Festival, has. I haven't gone to Miliara Shopping Centre Mall without someone mentioning the Mediterranean Festival or the Moonee Valley Festival at Queen's Park. Like yourself, every single time I've gone there, someone's always mentioned it to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing the return of the Mediterranean Festival.
Thank you, Councillor Sypek. Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, this is very exciting. Obviously, this report is noting what's coming. It is extremely exciting for the area. There's not really much we sort of need to add, except for the fact that I'm looking forward to the Centreway being activated to its full potential like it used to be. I feel like the team is on the right track. I feel like the traders are on board. I feel like the community is on board, and just got my fingers and toes and everything crossed for good weather. We haven't always had the best luck, unfortunately, but I'm sure that, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that it'll be good weather for a really fabulous event down the Centreway. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. For those councillors that are more recent to council and haven't experienced the Moonee Valley Mediterranean Festival, I should say, nothing has ever been as successful as that festival at the Centreway. It was always, every year, I can't remember how many years we did it for in a row, and it had quite the following, and it was a shame when we decided not to continue with it. We did something different, but which unfortunately hasn't worked. Nothing has worked since. So well done, Councillor Sypek. I think this will be really welcomed by the community, and it was lots of fun. I remember we were adjudicating on the biggest piece of whatever. It was good. It was fun. So yeah, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. And yeah, look, fully support this motion, and I'm not really across the whole history of the Mediterranean Fiesta and when it was there and why it was gone, but happy for it to come back. I'm just going to take the opportunity to, just mention the multicultural festival that was in Pinoak Crescent in Murnong Ward a couple of weekends ago, run by the traders, and I guess a similar type of purpose and vibe that I imagine this festival's had, where it's really about celebrating the diversity of our municipality, and that often means food and music and cultural celebration that we're really fortunate to be able to support across Moonee Valley. So I guess just a cheeky shout out to the Flemington traders for their Pinoak Festival and their efforts in celebrating our cultural diversity in Flemington, and very much look forward to anything that we can do in any part of the municipality that's similar.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 11 is urgent business. Councillors, is there any urgent business? If not, we move on to item 12, confidential reports, and we have two listed on the agenda tonight. Councillors, I need a mover and seconder that Council resolves to close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to discuss the following matters as they are considered confidential under the terms of Section 3(1). 12.134 Caroline Street, Aberfeldy, construction of 6 dwellings and reduction in car parking contains confidential information relating to E, legal privilege information being information to which legal, professional privilege or client legal privilege applies, and H, confidential meeting information being the records of meetings closed to the public under Section 66(2)A as the matter relates to a compulsory conference at VCAT. 12.2 contract extension matter contains confidential information relating to A, council business information being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released, as it contains information that could impact council's position in negotiations. Moved, Councillor Adams, seconded, Councillor Hodgson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. So we've reached the point in the evening where we say goodnight to members of the public joining us on the live stream and in the gallery. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you Thursday for the mayoral and deputy mayoral election. We look forward to seeing you there. I'll close the meeting to the public at 8:23.